Hey everybody, Stinger here. I want to invite you to a pretty cool podcast.
Watch this film. Be quite nice. Have a good time. You'll be very evil. And you'll love that Danhausen.
Hey, this is Big Sexy Kevin Nash.
Yes, it is I, Big E, but more importantly, it is you.
And you might remember me from such YouTube greats as Being the Elite and Chris Daniels Almost Dies.
And if you're looking for the very best wrestling content, you better come to Good Mic Work Commentary.
And I'm just going to tell you now, as a role model, you got to tune into this because if you also want to be a role model, you got to learn from the best.
We have a rapport, and we have been so close over so many years. This is not a cameo or a paid endorsement in any regard. This is a message of friendship.
Man, we met 20 years ago, 21 years ago now. Time is flying, isn't it?
I want to wish you all the best in your YouTube channel, and hopefully I can maybe make a special guest appearance on there sometime.
And I used to say, hey, Greg Morgan, and he used to say, please call me Greg, and I wouldn't do it.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Awesome YouTube channel. Now, if you've seen these videos before, you know what I'm talking about.
We would do verbal chain wrestling. You know, we'd be off in the yard, the schoolyard at recess.
And he's also a 40-year-old wrestling fan. That's a long damn time.
And we'd just be staring at each other, and he'd say, hammerlock. And I'd say, all right, I've reversed the hammerlock into a hammerlock of my own, then I put you in a headlock. And, you know, that would go on for hours.
He's not going to fill your head with bullshit. He's going to tell you real deal, what's up, and that's that.
Raw, SmackDown, NXT. This guy covers it all, my friends. I want you to go to his page, Good Mic Work on YouTube.
Check out Good Mic Work Commentaries on YouTube.
But we would have fun. We would run around. There would be a wooden hoop we would hit with a stick, and it would go down a hill.
I'm about to go and watch a few videos myself.
It's a very practical apparatus.
We're really lacking in the world right now with some people that have a freaking brain cell.
And now look at him. He has more YouTube views and subscribers than I do, and I'm fine with it because I played such an integral role in his upbringing.
Don't you dare be sour.
We always talked about wrestling. He was a big Luthez guy, and of course I had an affectation for the Hackenschmidts.
Clap for Good Mic Work Commentaries.
This is RJ City, a wrestling rock on tour.
And feel the power.
Listen to the podcast. Subscribe.
You are watching Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Good Mic Work Commentaries.
Just want to encourage all you guys to check out Good Mic Work Commentaries.
And if you don't, we're going to have a problem.
Do it!
Do it.
Do it now!
Thanks a lot for the encomium and the nice words about my father's Hall of Fame induction.
Hope our paths cross again sometime down the road. Would love to shake your hand again, and good luck on this podcast.
And you don't just watch it one time. You can rewatch every single one of them.
And now, Good Mic Work Commentaries and Greg Morgan presents the Winged Eagle Podcast.
Happy Saturday. What's going on, guys? And welcome back to the channel. We are here with your Winged Eagle Podcast for May 21st, 2022. And it's been a wild week of wrestling news, guys. We got a whole bunch of stuff to get into. Really, really interesting developments in WWE land as it relates to Stephanie McMahon's leave of absence, and a whole lot more information on Sasha Banks and Naomi, and a lot of the interesting circumstances surrounding that whole thing and what their future might actually be in wrestling. They might actually be gone from the company if they have their way. So we're going to kind of get into a little bit of that and follow up on that from this past Monday. We're also going to talk about Ric Flair's return to the ring that is set for SummerSlam weekend. Some news on Kevin Nash, Toni Storm, Tessa Blanchard, and WoW. We're going to talk about last night's SmackDown. The Usos, of course, unifying the Raw and Raw and SmackDown tag team titles in a match that WWE kind of spoiled, I think, on one of their UK social media sites. So we kind of had a feeling the Usos were going to keep rolling last night. Rampage was pretty decent. Couple crazy matches went down last night as well, along with that crazy spot involving Daniel Bryan, where he got his leg caught between the ramp and the ring. Turns out that whole thing was a work. And we have got a pretty stacked Dynamite set for this Wednesday, which, of course, is the go-home show for Double or Nothing, which is coming up in just 1 week. I will be in Vegas for Double or Nothing. If any of you are planning to attend the show, hit me up, shoot me a DM. We'll try to meet up either at the show or maybe even the night before. I'll be chilling at the Excalibur Hotel on Saturday night, so maybe we'll have a chance to do a little meetup and hang out there for those of you who are interested. So just hit me up over on the Twitters in the DM department if you want to hang out for Double or Nothing. And we're going to preview that entire card, which I think I have about 10 matches set for that now, at least by what I found today and on all the websites. The updated card has got 9 main card matches and 1 on the buy-in. So looks pretty stacked, and we're basically just going to get into all that stuff today. So hope you guys are having a great weekend. Thank you so much for being here. If you don't mind, smash that thumbs up button for me. And if you are not a subscriber, please do. I want to answer Rodrigo Martinez's question right off the bat. What watch-along are we doing tomorrow? We've been doing classic pay-per-view watch-alongs every Sunday here on the channel, and I had not yet decided on what to do for tomorrow until today. So unfortunately, I don't have a link up yet for you. I'll put that up tonight. But we talked about last week that maybe we should do a WCW show. It's been a while since we've done a WCW pay-per-view. And I always try to keep the watch-alongs consistent with whatever month we're in. So I started thinking about WCW Slamborees. And the one I settled on is Slamboree 1995. I think that's a really interesting show to do tomorrow night or to watch together tomorrow night because Cody is on it. Back then, they used to do the big Legends matches and shit, and Dusty is out there for some presentation with Gordon Soley. And you see a little tiny Cody Rhodes standing right there. I always remember that about the show. I think it's headlined with Hogan and Savage taking on Flair and Vader. There's also an IWGP World Heavyweight Championship match on the show. So, and considering we got the Forbidden Door coming up in a few weeks, I thought Slamboree 95 would be a fun show to do. I've probably only seen it one time, so it'll be fun to go back and look at that again from good old days of WCW just less than a year after Hogan had come in. So later on tonight, you'll see a link and all of that up for the watch-along. So like I said, make sure you are subscribed. In addition to that, I've got an Over the Edge 1998 review coming to the channel this week. I thought I would already have it up by now, but I did not. I'm going to finish up editing it tonight, and I'll get that up on the channel next week before I leave for Vegas for Double or Nothing. So you've got that nice review hitting the channel here pretty soon. And other than that, that's all I really have to discuss in terms of scheduling. I'm going to leave it up in the air for Monday, whether or not we're up here doing a Raw review or not. Raw, we're going to get into it here in a bit, does have a few things scheduled for the show. And, depending on what we learn, with Sasha and Naomi in the next 48 hours, I may or may not be up here on Monday as well. So just stay tuned to the channel, keep subscribed, and all that good stuff. Thank you to everybody else who is here in the chat. William and Nicola, Red Raven, Chaz, Lil, Justin. We've got Rodrigo. Dan Price is here. Good to see you. Ben and Tatanati and Hassan Matos, Andy, Linnell, Cobro. David Brown is here as well. Good to see my Monkey Wrench friends in the house. We got How Wheezy is here as well. Arthur, good to see you. Zane is here. George Morris in the house with a $5 drop. Hey, Greg, how are you doing? And how is Bub? Is Sonny's life over? Women's toilet at work won't stop flushing. I just bought that 70 show for $24 at Walmart. That's a lot of information. Bub, doing fantastic. Thank you for asking. Sonny's life, it depends on what she gets convicted and sentenced to. First of all, she's got to go to court for all this bullshit and actually get convicted of everything she did wrong. Hopefully that'll all go off without a hitch. She'll probably be do some sort of plea deal to reduce her sentence. That would be my guess, but like I said, I'm no lawyer. But one way or the other, Sonny, I really hope she's in jail for a long, long time. And even with a plea deal, I would imagine she's going to be behind bars for a pretty significant amount. But I'm not going to be satisfied with a day less than 10 years. And if she gets less than that, it's probably, to me, going to feel like an injustice. And you know what? I never really watched that 70s show. Never watched it. Although I think one of the stars is currently the star of the show that I'm watching right now, Orange is the New Black. Alex was on 70s show, but I never watched it for some reason. I don't know why. Thanks for being here, George. Appreciate it. Sonic Plays, K-Dog's Kennel in the house. Thank you very much for all of the health updates on you, my friend. Glad you're doing better. Michael Kumo, I think I got you. Jordan Carg in the house. Monique, Roderick. We've got all sorts of monkey wrenches. Nice. Chris is here as well. Joshua in the house. Vash, Jawan, Douglas. Who else we got? Did I miss anybody else? How Wheezy is here as well. I'm very happy with our little audience. Like I said, thumbs up button for me if you don't mind. I'm just going to shoot over to the Patreon page real quick, and I want to shout out all of the current subscribers over on Patreon. Thank you so much for all of your support over there. I am in the process of kind of updating these tiers a little bit as well and getting the channel reorganized a little bit for summer. That's all going on right now, so keep a lookout for those changes. I want to thank Chris Broski. And he is, I believe, oh no, he's not the one. It's Chris Cray. There's a different Chris is the one that's sponsoring the Over the Edge review this week. Chris Broski, thank you very much. Divine Ricks, thank you as well. JJ Legg, Nikita Abalakin, Chris Miner, Super Fluffy Toaster, Deshaun Robinson, Martin Can, Apron Bump Podcast, Alan Carter, Brandon Yelverton, Nick Musser, Jimmy Anderson, K-Dog's Kennel, good to see you, Ryan Y, Devlin Husband, John Redifer, Reese Jones, Claudio Clavedetcher, Barry M.K., Josiah Blevins, Michael Cuomo, John Riffle Navid, Keith Salyers, and Blake Moran. Guys, as always, appreciate everything. Who is in the lifetime lead right now? I believe it is Michael Cuomo. Yeah. 5 years going for you, man. Appreciate all of the support, guys. As always, you guys are very, very awesome. So why don't we start getting into some of the wrestling news, because there's a lot of it. And a lot of it is really interesting. And this one, I don't know if you would classify it as a bombshell or not. I think based on everything that's going on in WWE right now, this news of Stephanie was really jarring to a lot of people. But when you really think about it, at the end of the day, might not turn out to be that much of a big deal. I mean, everybody needs a break, right? But Stephanie McMahon, yesterday on social media, specifically Twitter is where I saw it, if I can get my mouse to work. And no, I'm sorry, this was on Thursday. Not yesterday. So Thursday in the afternoon, Stephanie McMahon tweets out the following: "As of tomorrow, I am taking a leave of absence from the majority of my responsibilities at WWE. WWE is a lifelong legacy for me, and I look forward to returning to the company that I love after taking this time to focus on my family." So looks like she's just briefly stepping away to either take a breather or deal with her family. Maybe it's a mental health thing. Who knows? But she's taking a break. Now, lots of additional information came out about this over the last 2 days, and a lot of this information is a combination of info from Brandon Thurston of WrestleNomics, Fightful Select, and The Observer. Everybody kind of weighed in on this, and some people elaborated a little bit more on what this meant. Now, it sounds like Nick Khan will be taking over her day-to-day duties as chief brand officer, which means Nick Khan has pretty much consolidated the duties and the positions of about 6 or 7 people in the company and is doing it all himself. So this guy is really coming in, and he is like the Grim Reaper, of just of consolidating and slashing stuff and making sure this company is literally as humanly profitable as possible. You know what I mean? And now that he's going to be stepping in for Stephanie McMahon in her absence, makes you wonder if some of these positions aren't even really necessary at all to begin with, because I know a lot of them have already been, let go with a lot of the corporate firings and the releases that went on over the past couple of years. WWE really has been simplifying things, it sounds like, behind the scenes. Now with Stephanie, it doesn't sound like, at least on the surface, that this has anything to do with that. This is something that she has actually been planning for a long time. I believe it was Meltzer who had reported that this was something that was in the works for her, and there is all of the expectation in the world that she will return to her job when this leave of absence is up. She did not mention how long this time was going to be. It might be a play it by ear thing. And she didn't really mention why, other than wanting to spend more time at home with her family, which could mean a number of things. Now, Triple H, we all know, has been out of action mostly, or out of the WWE after his health scare and his heart surgery, and he'll never wrestle again. And he ceremoniously left his boots and jacket in the ring at WrestleMania to kind of signify his ring days are over. He has resumed back to work at WWE in the offices there. However, his job has drastically changed from when he was previously there heading up NXT. And I think with Triple H's job, it's mostly his duties, I guess, is focused mostly on talent development and scouting and things like that, which he's a good person to have in that position. You know what I mean? I think you have to have business and finance people, in charge of the business and finance stuff, and you have wrestling people in charge of the wrestling stuff. So Triple H being back full-time with WWE doesn't imply any sort of falling out with the Levesques and WWE. I mean, at one time, all of us wrestling fans just assumed that Triple H and Stephanie would be the predecessors or the successors to Vince McMahon, I should say. And Triple H was kind of being groomed as that guy, and Stephanie and Triple H looked like they were going to make a good 1-2 punch to take over for Vince. And then things got weird. Next thing you know, Shane McMahon came back. Internally, WWE started making a lot of changes, bringing in Nick Khan to really wipe out a lot in their front office. Bruce Pritchard is back, and everything there just seems to be changing a lot over the past couple of years with, the Saudi Arabia deals and the Fox and USA deals. Now WWE having their content available on Peacock, which, the WWE network, as awesome as it was, is already an obsolete idea. And it has been, it's raised a lot of speculation in terms of WWE positioning themselves to sell the company. They might have a target price in mind that they're trying to beat. They want to sell the company for this many $1 billion or something like that. And if that's their goal, they need to make the company worth that much. And I think that's what Nick Khan is really there to do. So in a lot of ways, it's sad to see what's happening to WWE, and this idea of the McMahon family just carrying on the tradition does not seem like it's very likely anymore. And WWE may not even be a McMahon-owned company within the next 5 years. However, everything with Stephanie here, even though things have changed drastically with Triple H and his duties in the company with NXT and everything Nick Khan has done and what it appears as if they are positioning the company to do in the future, I still don't think that specifically has anything to do with Stephanie's leave here, at least based on what we've heard from, everybody that's been speaking on this and talking to sources and whatnot. Now, apparently, nobody in HR or internally, many of these people internally in WWE did not know of Stephanie's leave of absence until she tweeted it out. So it was a big surprise to many, although we also heard this was something that was in the works for a long time. Now, in terms of why she's taking this time off, this is a podcast. We just flap our gums here, so I don't feel too guilty about doing any sort of reckless speculation or anything like that. But taking time off could mean a number of things. We've heard the possibility of possible marital problems, who knows? And you also have to remember that they have kids. I think they have, 3 kids, 4 kids? They're all girls. They're probably getting older now. Some of them, maybe all of them, might be teenagers. I have no clue how old Stephanie and Triple H's kids are. But maybe one of them's fucking up. Maybe one of them has some problems. Maybe one of them needs some extra attention. Maybe one of them got in trouble, or just any sort of family issue, good or bad, that you might have. It might just be her just missing her family and wanting to be around them more. It might not even be one specific thing that's, that forced her or led her to make this decision. It could just be a lot of things. She just wants to be a mom. She misses her family. She misses her kids. She misses spending time at home. And, I think all humans need that. Stephanie's in her 40s. She's been working nonstop ever since she was a kid. She's been going through, it's been a rough couple of years for her with her husband and all of his health problems and all of the changes going on in WWE. Vince McMahon is getting very old, and her job level and her stress level is probably very high. So if Stephanie is just saying, I need to take a mental break here, take a step back, take a few months off. I watched my husband do it when he was recovering from his heart surgery, and it did wonders for him in terms of refreshing him and rejuvenating him. I want a piece of that. It could be something like that. It's not like Stephanie needs the money. She could quit now, never work another day for the rest of her life, and live a perfectly comfortable life, more comfortable than many people do. So you have to want to have your career when you don't necessarily need to work anymore. You have to have that drive, have that ambition. And sometimes life burns you out. I think everybody in this chat can relate to that, being burnt out either in your job or your life or both. And if you are fortunate enough to find yourself in a situation where you can take a step back, because most people don't have that luxury. You can have all the family problems and, and kid problems and marital problems and just mental health problems in the world, but you can't afford to take a step back from work. So at least Stephanie is able to do that and focus on whatever she needs to focus on and what she thinks is the most important. So we have our opinions here of Stephanie on the podcast, but in terms of something like this, I wish Stephanie nothing but the best. I've always been a big Triple H fan, big Triple H supporter. I've always had the dude's back, even despite the marriage to Stephanie and everything else. And, I think they are good people to have in the wrestling business. They really are. I have my issues with Stephanie and kind of her condescending tone and how much of a part of that WWE machine she is. However, at the end of the day, she's still a human being and a mother and a wife and, has a family and things that are much more important than this goofy ass wrestling company. So just wish her the best, whatever's going on here. Hope that this leave of absence does her well. I hope she comes back healthier and happier and stronger than ever and can resume her duties in WWE. But for right now, it sounds like she is taking a step back, basically for the first time ever. I mean, aside from the times that she was pregnant and had her kids, she really hasn't been taking time away from WWE or any extended period of time. Shane left for all those years. Triple H didn't take any time off either until just recently when he was forced to due to the cardiac episode stuff. So this is a woman that works extremely hard. So taking a break, taking 2 months, 3 months, 1 month, 2 months, 3 months, who knows, 6 months. Maybe she takes a year off. I don't think it'll be that long, but a few months just to kind of refresh herself is all I'm hoping that this is. I really hope there's nothing deeper here going on and there's no other, issues under the surface here that are more serious than maybe she's letting on. Maybe she doesn't want to let everybody know specifically what's going on. I'm just going to take a leave of absence. We'll leave it at that. I just hope it's something very simple. Like she just needs a break. She misses her kids and she wants to spend some time at home. That's really all I hope this is. And there's nothing more serious going on here. But best of luck to Stephanie. We'll see what happens when she does come back and resume her duties. And if we get any other surprises as it relates to this whole situation and what is going on internally in WWE, it's a very, very strange place right now in that company and not a place I'd really want to be working, to be honest with you. Which brings us to Naomi and Sasha Banks. Now, of course, this past Monday on Raw, prior to the main event, after the show had begun, Sasha and Naomi decided to leave the building when they were scheduled to be in the six-pack challenge match to determine who would face Bianca Belair at Hell in the Cell. WWE kind of had a hot-shotted angle where they had Becky Lynch talking to Adam Pearce, and he made the match Becky and Asuka one-on-one with the winner now facing Bianca Belair. Well, since Monday, we've had a lot more information come out on this. Now, the original story that everybody heard on Monday was legit. There was creative laid out for the six-pack challenge, and both women, I think, rejected it a little bit. There was some talk of changing things, then they didn't. And at the end of the day, whatever they planned to do, which apparently was having Naomi win and face Bianca Belair and then do an angle on SmackDown where Sasha Banks would get a title shot against Ronda Rousey, and they would be basically using the women's tag team champions to get your current world champions over after promising them that they were going to do better with the women's division. And Sasha and Naomi had really gone out of their way to make the women's tag team championships matter. And for the second time that Sasha Banks has been the tag team champion in that company, they have yanked the titles out, or the rug out from under her. And of course, they had that episode a few years ago, her and Bayley after WrestleMania 19, where they were, WrestleMania in 2019, where they were reportedly upset. So they walked out of Monday Night Raw. WWE immediately tries to jump ahead of the story because they know it's going to come out that they were sour on creative or whatever. So they specifically mentioned on commentary, Corey Graves did, which he was just fed that from Vince McMahon, that they left the building and it was unprofessional conduct and blah, blah, blah. Well, then last night on SmackDown, we see them elaborate more on that. Michael Cole informs the fans while at the commentary table on television that they walked out of WWE unprofessional conduct and repeated that shit, and also said that WWE has suspended both of them indefinitely because they let the fans down and all this fucking shit that they're trying to spew out. They're so gross when you hear them talk, because you know they're so fucking full of shit. You could even see Pat McAfee next to him kind of squirming in his chair a little bit there because he knows it's all horse shit, you know? And WWE releases this clip on their WWE YouTube channel. So you might as well monetize it as well, as long as you're dragging these two for whatever reasons you have. So they are now suspended indefinitely. Michael Cole announces that. He also announces that they've been stripped of the Women's Tag Team Championships. And get this, there's going to be a tournament in upcoming weeks to determine the new champions. A tournament. You have 2 teams in that division. What kind of fucking tournament are you going to have? This right here should show WWE how worthless these fucking titles are. Just making a tournament for these championships basically illustrates exactly the problem that Sasha Banks and Naomi had. They want to make the women's division matter. When you're the women's tag team champions, you're literally champions in a division with no contenders. You're fucking a Lunder Blaze in 1995. One person in the division, one person under contract, that's it. You have no challengers, nothing to do at all. It's just meaningless. You just face random opponents. There's no storylines. There's no angles. There's no nothing. There's no issues. And you're not treating the titles with any sort of value at all. And Sasha and Naomi know this. And they were trying to change things. And then here WWE just decides, we're going to put the tag team belts on the back burner for the next 3 or 4 weeks, push you 2 as singles to go against Ronda and Bianca. And then we'll just pick things back up in a few weeks and see where it goes. That's not good enough anymore. And Sasha Banks finally got, I guess, fed up with it. And her and Naomi got together after a couple of meetings with Laurinaitis and I think Vince McMahon, and they just opted to pack their shit up and walk out of the building. So WWE's pissed off. They have suspended them indefinitely. They have stripped them of the Women's Tag Team Championships. They have removed them from WWE's signature opening. They've taken all of their merchandise off of WWE Shop. So it's either off of there or offered at a very, very discounted price. And I think they've also removed Facebook pages and stuff. I don't know what's going on the website, if they're still on the alumni page or if they've been moved off of the respective rosters. But they are now suspended indefinitely, and who knows when or if they will even come back, because a lot of the speculation this week was that one or both of their contracts are likely up in a couple of months. And that would make a lot of sense, especially for somebody like Sasha Banks. You know, you got to understand, if you do this as a talent and you actually walk out, I mean, even Steve Austin admits that walking out in 2002 wasn't the best idea. And he didn't even walk out. He just no-showed the event. The show was starting and they were booked in the main event and they left. I don't recall a situation where that's ever happened before in all of WWE Raw history, you know, where you actually have talent leaving the show prior to a main event match that they're booked in that's already been announced for television. So that's kind of a whole different scenario there. And we all know, going back to the Austin days, that Vince McMahon's biggest pet peeve is, you know, when fans pay money to see you and you're advertised for the show and then you no-show, that's like the biggest unforgivable sin. Well, they really weren't. People weren't paying money to see Sasha Banks and Naomi wrestle because nobody knew what the fuck they were going to do on Raw. 1 hour before Raw went on the air, not one fucking match was announced, other than that cage match, I think, between Omos and Lashley. We literally had no idea what else they were going to do. So it's not as if they advertised something a week out, 2 weeks out, and the fans have been waiting for this day so they could watch Naomi and Sasha. Nobody's paying money to see one specific person anymore, really. You know, somebody might want to go to a show to see Roman Reigns or whatever, but you're buying tickets for next year's WrestleMania without one match being announced. You know what I mean? And you do that for pretty much every pay-per-view. So that kind of whole narrative is bullshit now, because WWE never announces anything for their shows. You know, they do for house shows. You pretty much have the whole card and stuff. So maybe you can use that argument, but to act like you've robbed Sasha Banks and Naomi, robbed the fans of something they were anticipating, that we didn't even know we were going to see that fucking match until 1 hour before Raw went off the air. So that's horseshit. So in terms of them walking out, what did we miss out on? Some shitty six-pack challenge that wouldn't have mattered at the grand scheme of things anyway, because it was only a tool used to put challengers in front of Bianca and Ronda for them to beat. So if Sasha and Naomi felt that things should be different and they went to bat for themselves, and this is probably also, you got to remember, not just one isolated incident. This is probably years of built-up frustration, of just day after day of creative just nonsense. It's just so, they're inept in a lot of ways. I just don't know why they kind of refuse to put any effort into a lot of these storylines when they know a lot of these talents, these big pieces of talent with contracts coming up, they're not going to re-up and re-sign with the company if they know that these type of things can go on, if they know that they cannot trust WWE Creative to write or book out anything of value for them at all. And we've heard Sasha Banks herself on Stone Cold's podcast talk about that she understands her value now. She has made it to a level where she's not going to take any shit anymore. And I love that talent is finding themselves in a position now, primarily because of the existence of AEW, that WWE no longer has everybody by the balls. You can't just do whatever they want, whatever they say, and they can just fuck with you in any way in the world. Once you get to a certain level, you're going to have a little bit more leverage against them because you've got a contract coming up. There's another wrestling company out there that will gladly pay you comparable money, maybe not the same money, but compared to the stress level and the schedule you're going to work, the money's going to be very nice over there for the creative freedom that you're going to be allowed and for the less mileage and wear and tear on your body in general that you're going to have to do in AEW. Because they don't run live events, and their TV shows are just not weekly, repetitive, redundant matches where you're just going in there and putting abuse on your body for no reason and matches that are forgettable and you don't remember even happened 5 minutes later. You know, where you see over on Dynamite and Rampages and stuff, they really build these cards week by week and let you know what you're going to see and make them meaningful, make them mean something, not just day in, day out garbage. What do we have last night? The 12th match in the last 3 months between Butch and Xavier Woods? Give me a break, man. So it's different. And I think a lot of talent might recognize this and shit, my contract's coming up in a couple of months. I don't need this bullshit. So if either one of their contracts or both are legitimately up in a couple of months, they have got nothing to lose. Imagine you're Sasha Banks or Naomi. Your contract is up in a couple of months and you have no desire and basically no love at all for the company anymore in terms of re-signing with them. You have no intention of sticking around. You already know you want out of there. You're frustrated and you need to break away from these fuckers. And you're probably either going to just leave wrestling altogether and take a breather, or go over to your competition. One way or the other, you do not intend on sticking around. And then you show up to TV and you're given this what you consider to be ridiculous creative when you compile all of the other days and nights of ridiculous creative that you've had to just, suck up and take and just bite the bullet and go out there and do it. You finally now find yourself in a position where, shit, if they don't like it, I'll just quit. I'm leaving anyway. Fuck these people. I love the fact that talent can find themselves now, some talent can find themselves in a position where they are able to stand up for themselves. Now, you can debate all day on if you think Naomi and Sasha were unprofessional. I do not, specifically because, or more, mostly because of all of the years and decades of just creative nonsense and how incompetent the creative team seems to be when it comes to just putting the most minimal effort into anything. And so you hear about all of this for years and years and years. It's great when talent finally starts standing up for themselves. Toni Storm famously quit the company just a few months ago. Turns out, as she revealed on AEW's podcast, was it AEW, what is that podcast called? AEW Unrestricted. And during that whole pie shoving contest that her and Charlotte were having for a couple of weeks there, apparently the original plan was for Charlotte to strip off Toni Storm's shirt and she'd be left out there in her underwear and all embarrassed. And she didn't want to do that. It had nothing to do with the sexual nature of the angle, according to Toni. It was just dumb. She just didn't like it, didn't feel it was necessary, didn't feel like it was going to mean anything. And WWE changed it to the pie incident instead, which she still didn't like but went along with. And then just realized that this place isn't just going to be for her. They are too incompetent. I am more valuable than this just to show up to this place and have them waste me in ridiculous angles, storylines, segments. It's not who I am. I want out. Lucky for her, the WWE didn't fight her on it, and they actually released her. Now she's happy as ever in AEW. Not sure if Naomi or Sasha will have that easy of a transition or if one or both of them will return to the company, because you got to remember, Jimmy Uso is Naomi's husband, and he's there unifying some tag team championships last night. He's in a great position in the company, so it is weird that he is there while his wife has some turmoil with them. But that's not uncommon either, because we see a lot of couples spread out across the two companies. So I don't think being married to Jimmy Uso would stop Naomi from leaving the company, so to speak, and going to AEW, because people do that shit all the time. Zelina and Malachi Black, I believe, are married, correct? So it's doable and can be done and is being done right now. So I don't know if Naomi's family would specifically keep her in WWE. I think both women would be an excellent asset to AEW's women's division, especially Sasha, because the only star they really have, like star that AEW has, is Britt Baker. And you put Sasha Banks in that roster as well, and now you got Sasha and Britt. You know, that's a big, big, big step up there. And Sasha Banks, you know, she's a lot like Cody in a lot of ways, which makes me wonder if, you know, this could ultimately hurt her, and WWE is going to feel like she's not worth keeping around. But now with AEW there, I think WWE is going to be willing to still bring her back and pay her a glorious amount of money to stick around just to keep her away from AEW. And that might be attractive to Sasha Banks as well, because like I said, a lot like Cody, I think Sasha Banks has this desire to be presented on the biggest stage possible. And that stage is still WWE, like it or not. However, her jumping over to AEW could do wondrous things for that women's division, and she would be pretty much thrust right to the top of it almost immediately. So she's got some decisions to make if her contract is coming up in a couple of months. Same goes for Naomi. If there will be any sort of future meetings between them and Vince McMahon or John Laurinaitis or WWE management in general, and they're able to work things out and come back in. But if neither one of these women, and this is all speculative, by the way, this is assuming these reports, these rumblings of their contracts coming up for expiration in the next couple of months, that's assuming all of this is true. So let's just assume for a second that it is. And they know they're out, you know, then I don't see them coming back. I don't know how it works. If you like walk out on the company and you technically have a couple of months left, WWE can probably tie them up and freeze their contracts for a while until they settle all of this. I don't know if the contracts just keep moving, because once the contract is up and it's expired, you don't have any no-compete. You can go anywhere you want the very next day. So WWE might find themselves in a situation where they're up shit's creek without a paddle with these two, and I would love to see that. WWE deserves that. I don't want to hear... It amazes me how many people will have been defending WWE management throughout the course of the past week. How in the fuck can people go to bat? Can you stan WWE management? That is mind-blowing to me, especially when we know, and it's been proven and illustrated and shoved in our faces, how ridiculously goddamn incompetent they are. And the fact that people go, I don't care, you should fulfill your contract. Oh, fulfill your contract? You mean like WWE does to the 212 fucking wrestlers that they released since 2019? They didn't fulfill their end of the bargain. They can just cut you, do whatever you want. They can call you up from NXT, put you on the main roster, and cut you 1 week later. Just when you think your career's starting to take off, just when you go out and buy a house or move here from overseas, move here from fucking Ireland, and you just get here, you plant your feet, and you're ready to continue and you resume your career here in the United States. You get a job with WWE. You do great in NXT. They call you up. They give you a stupid fucking name that's completely different than anything from what the fans know you as so far. They put you on the main roster. They just don't like the way your hair looks, and then they release you, along with 45 other people on the same day. So I don't give a fuck about WWE and honoring contracts. Fuck all that. Like they give a shit. You know, WWE, the way they treat people. You're going to fucking defend this shit when finally it comes back to bite them in the ass for once? For finally, when their incompetence comes back to actually haunt them? That's what we want to see, because maybe stuff like this, like I said, will force them to try a little bit harder in the future. Back in the day with WCW and WWE's war, I brought this up before, back in the Monday Night War days, you battled your competition in a much different way. You know, WCW was breathing down WWE, a then only McMahon-owned company, breathing down their necks, kicking their asses, on the verge of putting them completely out of business. The only way WWE had to fight back was to put on better television, create better characters, better storylines, better angles, and just better quality TV in general. And they did that. And that was able to destroy WCW, get all the attention off of the NWO and Hogan and Savage and Hall and Nash, and put it on The Rock and Austin and DX. And WWE just put on a better show. That's how they defeated their competition, by being better than them. Now it's not about putting on the better show, because WWE's not in any danger of going out of business. They're not in any danger of being put down by AEW. It's not the same thing. You know, they're now a publicly traded company that's getting billions of dollars from Fox USA and Saudi Arabia. They are going nowhere. So there's no real incentive now to put on a better show, because it doesn't matter if your show sucks. You're still bringing in record profits. Every time they do one of those quarterly earnings calls, it's always record profits. Always. Record revenue, record profits, every single fucking time. So what is their incentive? What is their motivation to actually try harder from a creative aspect? Make their storylines mean something. Make their matches mean something. You know, develop their characters instead of just bringing them out there, developing them in NXT, sticking them on the main roster, changing their name, and then going in a completely different direction with them. So WWE isn't going to try very hard in terms of their creative because of AEW's existence, because they don't have to. Where back in the day when WCW was around, that was going to be their only way they were going to survive. Their survival, their survival plan is different now because they have so much money. They're in no danger of going out of business or getting their asses kicked by AEW. There's no chance of that because they're WWE and they're so huge now. They have so much ridiculous money. So what we might be able to do to get things improving from a creative side is when you do have talent that is standing up to stupid creative and say, that's fucking dumb, I'm not going to do that. You couldn't do that 5 or 10 years ago when there's nowhere else to go. Now you've got another company you can leverage yourself against. And as we've seen with people like Roderick Strong and Mustafa Ali, two people that WWE has no fucking clue what to do with, and it wouldn't even matter if WWE released them, because it's not going to affect WWE in any way, but they do know that another company might have a better idea what to do with guys like that, so they're going to keep them around just so they don't go over there. So maybe with some of these, not all talent, but at least some of the top-tier talent, and Sasha Banks definitely is a top-tier talent in the company, if you have people like that, you're going to want to make sure they're satisfied creatively. It's not always just about money all the time. So if you don't want to risk your talent jumping ship when their contract is up, you better start trying a little bit harder with your creative direction. Some people, they're great with. RK Bro is fucking amazing. Roman Reigns is the best thing going in the company right now. They have some things that they do right, but it's only a small handful of things. Cody Rhodes is another one. They're putting a lot of effort and thought into his run and how it's structured out. And I don't understand as a fan why this type of effort can't be put into everybody, considering you have 20 fucking writers back there. And, you know, maybe you need to incorporate some more wrestling people other than just agents and shit like that to, you know, help come up with ideas. But every idea they have, every angle on TV is fucking stupid. It's so stupid. It's so stupid. Everything they do is jaw-droppingly fucking dumb, with the exception of like one or two things. So maybe this will be a wake-up call for them with Sasha and Naomi. You know, they'll say to themselves, we got to make sure some other pieces of talent who we haven't really treated that well, guys like Kevin Owens, AJ Styles, you can completely understand why they re-signed with the company, because they've been treated very well since being there, especially AJ. You could argue that Owens, it's a crime that he hasn't had more than that one Universal title run, but overall, I think he's been doing very well since he's come in back in 2015. And don't forget, this year he wrestled in the main event against the biggest wrestling star of all time. So Kevin Owens is doing okay. So when it comes to, and he's getting the Ezekiel shit over on his own. Thank Kevin Owens for how hilariously entertaining the Ezekiel stuff has been on Monday Night Raw. That's all him. So there's certain guys that WWE does take care of from a creative aspect, but everything else, they just fucking fly by the seat of their pants. And I think that's disrespectful to the talent that you're developing and paying good money to be there and work. You know, I don't think the writers understand that bumps hurt. Bumps take a toll. They put miles on your body. They hurt your joints. They hurt your back. You can really get banged up easily by just wrestling night after night after night after night. So if you're going to do that and you're going to put that type of damage on your body, at least make it meaningful, and at least make it mean something. And unfortunately on WWE television, very little means anything at all. So when it comes to talent finally stepping up and bucking the system a little bit and saying, no, this is horseshit, or I want this changed, or whatever, as fans, you should never reject that. As fans, you should never not want that to happen, because if WWE remains completely in control of everything and they can do what they want and nothing else in the world matters, that's how you get the type of content you're getting in WWE. It's best if, talent has a little bit more input and a little more say-so, and WWE starts recognizing that we can't just write nonsense for this particular person. Their contract is up in 6 months. We don't want to lose them. We need to start caring about them. And I don't also want to see the trend, because we see this happen sometimes as well. Sometimes WWE will start taking care of a guy or woman near the end of their contract to try to entice them to stick around. So I don't want to see them just start to care when your contract is up. I want them to care your entire run there, and we're just not seeing that with a majority of the WWE talent. So I'm inclined to just instinctively be on the side of Sasha and Naomi in this, because anybody that stands up to that company and the incompetence that goes on back there is a fan in my book. And if you could take the WWE side in something like this, yikes! I don't even know what your fucking thought process is. To be, oh yeah, fuck them, they're better off without Sasha and Naomi. I saw a lot of that. I never liked Sasha shit on Twitter this week, which was really funny. All of a sudden, oh, you never liked her, huh? Okay. My God, but just to side with management of World Wrestling Entertainment over any wrestler, to me, is fucking bizarre. And I can't imagine anybody thinking that Sasha and Naomi are in the wrong here. I'm so happy that wrestlers are standing up to WWE. I would do that if I had any sort of value at all. If I was in a position where I knew I was bulletproof, or I knew WWE was not going to want to get rid of me, I would not just go out there and do whatever they said, if it was really, really, really stupid. I'm like, that's a waste of time and fucking dumb. Let's change it. Let's do something better. How about we do this? I really want talent to speak up and do this more. So if they're gone from WWE, it remains to be seen how long it takes either one of these women or both of them to actually leave the company. If they have to have some sort of a meeting first, where they agree to part ways, or they'd agree to come back in and job out for their last 2 months. Who knows? But if they are out of the company, Sasha might want to go off to Hollywood. I know she was doing the Star Wars shit or something like that, or Star Trek, or she was in something like that. And she might have aspirations way beyond wrestling. So this might be an opportunity for her just to get away from WWE and not do any wrestling at all. But I do think if she were to jump over to AEW, she would be a major, major part of that women's division. And her and Britt Baker would pretty much dominate, I would think, the women's division, and it would be a lot of fun. She would be a great asset to them, because Sasha Banks is a star. Might be fun to see a Sasha Banks and Ty Conti match, if you understand that reference. That might be fun. But wish both women the best. Happy that they walked out, fuck WWE, and I'm really glad that they got the hell out of there and they stood their ground and they say, we don't need you. Especially Sasha Banks. WWE probably needs her a lot more than she needs them, because she can now go on to do anything she pretty much wants. And like I said, having another major wrestling promotion existing in North America is so good for situations like this. And it's hopefully going to curb a little bit of WWE's incompetence in the creative area when they know they've got another wrestling company out there that some of their talent could jump ship to if you don't take care of them. So hopefully they will start to do that, because when you think about Roderick Strong, Mustafa Ali, both asking for their releases, lots of other pieces of talent in the last couple of years asking for their release as well. Tony Storm just up and walked out of the company. Jeff Hardy walked right out of the company during a fucking match to get out of there. And now Sasha and Naomi leaving Raw before the show goes off the air. What do you think is most likely here? That WWE management and creative are a bunch of saints who just love and treat everybody well with respect and really put a lot of effort and thought into creative directions and storylines and angles and segments? or that, the talent is sick and tired of getting jerked around. I think I know which one I'm picking. So best of luck to Sasha and Naomi. Like I said, we'll keep our eye on this situation and how much more dragging WWE does of the both of them. Like I said, Corey Graves mentioned something on Monday night, and Michael Cole detailed everything last night on SmackDown. You got to understand, too, this is all Vince McMahon and WWE, pushing this narrative out. They want to get ahead of the story and make it look as if Naomi and Sasha were unprofessional, when anybody who really knows anything knows what the real story is. For WWE to say they disappointed their fans and they acted unprofessionally. I'm like, no, you acted unprofessionally, assholes, by taking two great respected pieces of talent and sending them out there on TV to do a bunch of bullshit when they know they're way more valuable than that. So the fact that you have talent saying, I'm not doing that. Sasha Banks herself on Stone Cold's podcast says, I eat steak, and I don't have to go out there and, do a bunch of bullshit anymore if I don't want to. And I love it when talent comes to that realization in their mind. And if I was in that position, I would be bucking the system all the time. So, like I said, best of luck to Sasha Banks and Naomi. They've been pulled from the signature opening. They got no more merch up on the website. So we'll see how long this WWE's bitterness continues and how far they take it in terms of removing them from everything WWE related, and how long they try to keep them around past their contracts and when those contracts are actually up, because I don't think we know. Before we get into the Ric Flair stuff, let me cruise over here to the chat real quick and get caught up over there, because there's a couple of super chats rolling in. If you guys don't mind, those of you who are here, please hit that thumbs up button. If you're not a subscriber, subscribe to that too. We got a Slamboree, WCW Slamboree 1995 watch along tomorrow night at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. And we are here every Wednesday for Dynamite watch-alongs as well. And of course, every Saturday for podcasts. I think Spectra, are you the next super chat that I owe? I think you are. Let me just get down to you here and answer your question before we get into Ric Flair. Appreciate the $9.99, my friend. How can WWE have no-compete clauses in their contracts if they release someone? Do they keep paying the person during that no-compete? Either way, so glad to see Sasha and Naomi stick it to WWE. No, as far as I know, I don't think you get paid during your no-compete. I think that's just something that's written in the contract. No-competes exist everywhere. Even in my restaurant business, my boss had to sign a no-compete, a 3-year no-compete, after he sold 3 restaurants in the same area. The new owners said that he's not allowed to open a new one in that area for 3 years. And it was basically like a non-compete. So I think those things exist all the time. They're put into the contract, it has to be agreed upon. And it's just WWE's way of protecting themselves as strongly as possible. So when they do have, and 90-day no-competes were kind of ridiculous once WCW went away. I mean, TNA, obviously WWE didn't want a ton of talent going there, but I never really considered TNA the threat that AEW is. So it's just their way of, not allowing a talent to just show up on the show the very next day. And that's kind of why they exist. But if your contract is up, you can just go do anything. But if they release you, you can't work anywhere for 90 days. And in terms of, what you're paid for that, I don't think you're paid anything, but I'm also not exactly sure either. But you got 5 more coming in later, Spectra. Thank you very much for $4.99 more. Also, food for thought. If Sasha does leave, what do you think the chances of Bayley leaving whenever her contract expires? I don't know. Bayley's another one that I feel like has got a really good spot in WWE. She's hilariously entertaining. She's great. I do think that she is happy with her role and her position there in the company. She did tweet out support for Sasha Banks and Naomi. At least it appeared that way. A lot of talent has kind of tweeted cryptic or subliminal, I sound like George Bush, subliminal support for both women. And a lot of talent, I think, is secretly happy that they stuck up. According to Brian Alvarez, however, everybody he spoke to in WWE were pissed and nobody was taking the side of Sasha and Naomi. I believe he said nobody at all believes they did the right thing, when that's clearly bullshit, because plenty of people on social media who work in that company did think they did the right thing. So I think it might be a combination of both. Maybe some of the agents were, upset and thought they behaved unprofessionally. Others were happy that they stuck up for themselves. And there is an element of unprofessionalism to walking out of the show. There absolutely is. I'm not denying that they were unprofessional, but sometimes that's what it takes. You know, I would be unprofessional too if I had to show up to work every single day and work for a bunch of idiots. Eventually, I'd become pretty goddamn unprofessional. So I don't even give a shit about the unprofessional argument, because if you had to put up with that shit every fucking day of your life, you'd probably do the same thing. And if you don't, then, you're letting yourself be walked. You're a pushover. Don't be a pushover in life, in anything you do. And Sasha and Naomi do not appear to be pushovers. No, DX Cena for life. That's not what I think at all. I'm actually just speculating here. Not even close to accurate on that one. Let's see, what else did I miss? Yeah, I think Bayley will be fine in WWE too. I mean, when you think about it, she's got no real reason to be pissed, at least right now. Now, when she comes back from her injury, she returns to TV. If they start doing a whole bunch of bullshit with her and she's not happy with her direction or her character or anything like that, and her contract is coming up, then, she might want to leave. But I think there are plenty of people. Not everybody needs to leave WWE and go to AEW. There are plenty of people in the company where I think WWE is the right fit for them. Bayley might be one of those people. Because you got to think about the name changes too. I mean, if Sasha Banks leaves WWE, she's going to go to AEW to be what? Mercedes, whatever her name is, or could they do like Sasha Boss, or could they spell Sasha differently? I don't know how all the intellectual property stuff works, but it would be interesting, if nothing else, if Sasha and Naomi leave, just to see what they will be called. I think that would be fun. Yeah, Trey, I mean, we are missing out on a Naomi and Bianca Belair match. And I understand that. I think that would be fun. I think there would be some really fun spots in that match. But you also know that Naomi going into that match with Bianca Belair, she's not going to win. Bianca's going to beat her just like Ronda would beat Sasha Banks. But I think that's fine. Putting credible challengers in front of your champions is what you want to do. But when you are using those credible challengers, when they're your current tag team champions and they are desperate to try to improve the tag team division and actually make it a division and make it good, and then you just yank the rug out from under them and say, no, you're going to wrestle singles matches instead and we'll worry about the tag team titles later. Well, what the fuck did you put the belts on us for? You just threw it on us. We decided to make it work, put everything we could into it to make the team exciting and make the women's division matter and try to elevate the value of these tag team championships. And then you just take it all away and say, we'll figure it out later. How many times does a talent have to hear that before they get fed up? That's all I'm saying. It's just life. You know what I mean? It's just life. Where did we leave off in our notes? We got to talk about Ric Flair. Now, we talked about Ric Flair on Monday because this past week, it was confirmed that the rumored Ric Flair match, his return to the ring to wrestle one final time, is indeed happening. It is confirmed for July 31st, which I believe is the day after SummerSlam. It's going to be in Nashville. This is going to be under the Jim Crockett Promotions banner, and we don't yet know who his opponent is going to be. Now, apparently this was originally set to be a tag team match. One of the first matches rumored for this was going to be Ric Flair and FTR taking on the Rock and Roll Express and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Now, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, this is kind of interesting because he came out and publicly turned down the offer and said that he really enjoyed his return back in 2009 when he wrestled Chris Jericho, and he wants to be remembered for that, and he doesn't want to potentially tarnish the fans' lasting memory of him by getting in the ring and, not being able to perform well. And that was basically Ricky Steamboat's response. And that was his, his reasoning, I should say, for turning down the offer. This appeared to upset Conrad Thompson, who I think is a big part of putting this whole match together. And he revealed on one of his 19 podcasts that he's on, or that he hosts, that there's more to the Ricky Steamboat story than Ricky is letting on. I think there was some sort of something fell through there, obviously. I think maybe the match was going to happen and then it didn't, and, some sort of falling out there happened. Now, Conrad, due to his immense respect for Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, didn't want to comment too much on it because he said he was worried he would get too negative about it, and he doesn't want to do that to somebody that he loves and respects as much as Ricky Steamboat. But it sounds like something went on there with Ricky and Flair and Conrad and this whole thing, and Ricky Steamboat coming out and publicly rejecting the offer before, Conrad and Flair's camp had a chance to make a statement about it. Apparently ruffled some feathers there a little bit, and Conrad basically just said there's more to the story than what he's letting on, but it's nobody's business and they're just going to leave it alone. So clearly something fell through between all parties involved. Ricky Steamboat's explanation for turning down the offer is hinted to be bullshit by Conrad, but who really knows? I don't even care in terms of seeing Steamboat and Flair in the ring. I don't even care to see Flair in the ring at all, to be honest with you. And I love Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, one of my favorite wrestlers growing up. I thought he did a great job when he came back and wrestled Jericho in the big tag at WrestleMania, and then I think, Backlash or something, or whatever the pay-per-view after that was so good. And him having one final match with Flair, I guess would have been nice. It wouldn't have been bad or anything, but I can certainly understand Ricky Steamboat not wanting to do it because Ric Flair is also 73 years old. Now, Ric Flair has also claimed, mind you, that he has seen 40 doctors about this return to the ring. Not all of them gave him a clean bill of health or said he should do it or it's a good idea, but the ones he listened to did. That's basically what he said. He goes, I listened to 40 doctors and I listened to the ones that gave me the answer I wanted, is essentially what he said. And he claims he's going to be fine, and he claims he'll be able to do it, claims he'll be at 85%. Which he will not be. He will not be at 85% of what Ric Flair was when he was 100%. Absolutely no way there. And of course, he'll be very protected in the match if this does still turn out to be a tag team match. I don't know what matches now are rumored for Flair. Obviously, he should do some sort of a tag team match, would probably be best. Trying to do something one-on-one might be a little bit tough. And we'll see what they wind up announcing, but we got a whole another 2 months before this match takes place, and Flair is going to continue to train. He's been training with somebody from John Cena's gym and Jay Lethal. He even took a body slam and taken some bumps a little bit, so Flair is going to get in the ring and do this, and it will be, like I said, under the Jim Crockett Promotions banner. I think David Crockett is going to be in attendance for this, and it's going to be Ric Flair's official last match, so he says. If he makes it to 100, he'll probably try to have one more just for fun. And he says this will be it, and this will be his final send-off. 14 years after the final send-off should have actually happened in 2008, because my lasting memory of Ric Flair, the I'm sorry, I love you super kick, the pin at WrestleMania, Shawn kissing him crying and walking to the back, the Hall of Fame the night before, the send-off the next night on Raw, everybody coming out to say goodbye, including Vince, an Undertaker breaking character. That was the greatest retirement that has ever been in wrestling, and Ric Flair ruined it. So last time he got in the ring, 2011, I think in TNA against Sting, and now here it is in 2022. He's going to have one more run and one more dance, likely in a tag team, and this will be it for Ric Flair. So it'll be interesting to see when we get footage of that match or whenever it airs or however the hell we're supposed to see it. And Flair getting back in the ring is set. He's doing it, and it's July 31st. Opponents to be determined. So Flair's back. Flair's back. Kevin Nash has some interesting news. Kevin Nash is going to be launching a new podcast starting in July called Click This. And for once, the host of the podcast is not Conrad Thompson. It's actually going to be Sean Oliver, who I really like. And I think Conrad himself even credited Oliver with really kind of creating the format for podcasts that we see today. Sean Oliver's Kayfabe Commentary series was fantastic, and there's a lot of those videos and shoot interviews currently available on YouTube. And back in the day, he would release them on DVD, and you could buy them online. And they were fantastic, really well done, really well organized. Sean is really good at putting these shows together. However, they weren't very often. They were every, month or so, he would do another big interview and they would fly the person in. It would be in person. They would film it, but it was really a podcast, really. I mean, it was him talking about that Timeline series is a great example of that, how it pretty much was a podcast before a podcast, but they were rare and they were expensive. You had to pay for them. And then Conrad came along and basically took Sean Oliver's format and turned it into a weekly thing for free. And I always thought that Sean Oliver would be a great podcast host, even though he's still involved with the K-Babe commentary stuff. Hadn't really heard a ton about him since podcasts took off. So the fact that, he's going to be working with Kevin Nash, and the two of them have worked several times together. I know Nash has got at least one timeline, one guest booker. He's had 4 or 5, maybe even more appearances with Sean Oliver before. So they know each other well, should be a good partnership. And I'm really interested to hear this podcast because Kevin Nash is one of my favorite people in all of wrestling. I've always said he's number one on my list of a person in wrestling that I like to sit at a bar and have a few beers with and talk to. Nash is number one, above Brett, above everybody else. Just really, really, really like Nash's vibe and his personality. He's a lot like me, and I'm excited to see and hear this podcast. So that'll be launching in July. Should be good stuff, and looking forward to hearing that, especially some of those click stories. And one of the earliest episodes we're going to get, Scott Hall. So should be good. Like I said earlier, Toni Storm was a guest on AEW's Unrestricted podcast where she spoke a little bit about her WWE departure, and she did mention all of that stupid shit they were doing with Charlotte in the Pie Face segments, that was originally supposed to be Charlotte stripping down Tony's shirt, and she has to leave all embarrassed in her underwear. That was supposed to be the segment. That was what Toni claims she didn't want to do. Fans have really been showing their ignorance this week on social media. I saw a lot of people mentioning that this is the WWE management stand shit that it just blows my mind that exists. Sasha and Naomi are unprofessional. I'm like, bitch, wouldn't you be unprofessional if you had to go through what they had to go through? So Toni Storm refusing to do this has got a lot of fans saying, well, that doesn't make any sense because she's unwilling to be on TV in her bra, but she's got an OnlyFans account where she's naked and she makes all sorts of money. I want you to get a dictionary out. Open it up. Look up the word consent. Read the definition 4 or 5 times in a row, however long it takes you. And then just close the dictionary, think about what you just read, and just think about it. That's your homework assignment. The fact that this is not a bigger story than it is kind of surprising to me, that WWE just comes up with these random stupid ideas that would have seemed totally normal in 1998. Every time Sable came out to the ring, she was getting her shirt stripped off or something. And WWE has teased a little bit of this in the past. Remember when a couple years ago they had the person walk in on Alexa Bliss when she was changing? What was the point of that? Did that do anything for anybody or at all? It was just some random thing that they tried, and I think a lot of wrestlers are sick and tired of having shit experimented on them. And this was something that Toni Storm even herself said. It wasn't the sexual nature that bothered me. It was just the creative was stupid. It was fucking dumb. So they made it a pie thing instead where I got pie in my face. She goes, which is still stupid, but at least it was something I could bear, I could take or whatever. So, after that, that's when she just bounced out. I don't want to be here anymore. This place is not for me. This place is never going to creatively satisfy me. And all I'm going to do is just go out there and be humiliated by your champion every week. Not doing that. So I want out. And to WWE's credit, they let her go. They could have easily fucked her around too, like they did Roderick Strong or Ali. But whatever the situation there was, they opted to let her go and let her be happy. I wish they would make that decision with a lot of other people in the company. So, Toni Storm kind of revealed a little bit of that's not surprising. What it comes down to, forget about what they wanted her to do. At the end of the day, we're talking about creative here. We're talking about creative being fucking stupid, and a lot of wrestlers saying no, and that's why a place like AEW is very attractive to a lot of people, because the stress that is going to take away from you and the relief that you're going to feel not working for a crazy fucking company like that is going to be very attractive, knowing that you can go somewhere with a little bit of creative freedom where you're not just going to be working for a bunch of idiots. And that's got to be a really attractive thing for a lot of talent. So hopefully the Toni Storm stuff, the Jeff Hardy stuff, the Sasha Naomi stuff will start. Light bulb will go off in WWE's head and they'll say, maybe we need to try a little bit harder than we're currently trying. So I'm happy to see Toni Storm in AEW. I think she's doing great there. We're set up for a pretty awesome match on Wednesday between Toni Storm and Britt Baker in the semifinals of the Owen Cup. And I think a lot of fans are assuming that Baker is going to win this. I myself have kind of compared the situation to Bret Hart in 1993. Right after his title run, he dropped the belt at WrestleMania, and then WWE gave him the King of the Ring victory as maybe like a consolation prize, or here, we still care about you. Here's this until we're ready to bring you back into the title scene. They might be doing the same thing with Britt Baker, and when you look at Adam Cole, on the men's side, also in a really good position to win this whole thing, it could be Baker and Cole winning the first ever Owen Cups. And like I said, if you're AEW and you're going to do the Owen Hart Cup tournament every single year, you're going to want to look back fondly and as fondly as possible on your first 2 winners ever. And Baker and Cole, they feel like they could be, AEW mainstays for many, many years to come. I think it would be fun to do Tony Storm and Chris Statlander in the finals, or Tony Storm and Ruby Soho. That would be great, especially Storm and Statlander. That match specifically, I think, would be a lot of fun. But it feels like it's probably going to be Baker winning the whole thing. But hey, Tony Storm gets to the finals and winds up winning this thing. I think she'd be a fantastic first winner for the Owen Hart Cup. So we'll see. Either way, I'm watching both finals in person next week at Double or Nothing. I'm ready. We need to kind of backtrack a little bit and talk about some results. Let me just briefly talk about Raw and SmackDown real quick. This past week's Raw rating came in 1.7 and 0.45 in the share. They have 3 matches, or I guess 2 matches and a segment announced for this week. We're going to see Cody taking on The Miz again. So Cody one-on-one with The Miz. They'll probably do some more shit there, setting up his upcoming match with Seth Rollins. And we also have Becky Lynch and Asuka again as well. And they also have planned a Bobby Lashley and Omos segment of some kind. So Cody and Miz, Becky and Asuka, and Lashley and Omos doing something is set for Monday. Last night's SmackDown, it was an okay show. I'm not going to get into all of it. The big match, of course, was the main event with the Usos taking on RK Bro to unify the Raw and SmackDown Tag Team Championships. In terms of the rest of the show, the Bloodline did open the show, and Roman basically informed his cousins that he expects them to go out and unify those tag team championships at the end of the night, and he gave them one of those hugs, that like double hug that immediately made me think of the Hart Foundation reunion back in 97 when Bulldog and Owen were at each other's throats, and Brett came out and cooled their heads down and turned heel and got back with him, and they gave like a 3-way hug, and you can see Brett like smirking, looking at the audience. It was the same exact thing with Roman Reigns. Very cool. Shinsuke Nakamura defeated Sami Zayn in a really good little match there. Sami Zayn, Nakamura survived being counted out by the hair of his chinny chin chin, only for Sami Zayn to do the same, only when he slid in the 9 count, he ate a Kinshasa from Nakamura for the win. They even teased a little backstage thing with Nakamura and Roman Reigns after that, so we may still get Nakamura and Roman Reigns. I have heard that the plans, or we have heard that the plans for Hell in the Cell could potentially be Riddle and Reigns, which I think would be really good. Maybe Nakamura and Reigns can be done on TV or something in the next few weeks before Roman takes this hiatus. But it was kind of cool to see that they haven't completely dropped that because we thought Nakamura was going to be Roman's opponent for Backlash. We got an episode of Happy Talk. Fucking stupid. Corbin destroys Madcap Moss's Andre the Giant Battle Royal trophy, which who cares? We had Gunther beating down Drew Gulak one-on-one. We had Raquel Rodriguez defeating Shotzi Blackheart, or Shotzi, one-on-one. And then we had the debut of Max Dupree. I think it's Dupree. Is it Dupree or Dupree? Something like that. LA Knight has resurfaced on SmackDown. He was already called up. I think he worked some dark matches or did a dark segment or main event or something as LA Knight. They might have changed his name even a 3rd time there, I'm not sure. But now he debuts backstage with Adam Pearce, approaches him, introduces himself as Max Dupree, even though Adam Pearce knows who he is from NXT as LA Knight. And he says that, or Max Dupree says that he is the CEO of Maximum Male Models, and he's ready to get to work. And I guess he's going to be the leader of a group. Is he going to be going around searching for good-looking guys like me and the rest of you dudes in here to join his faction? Like, are we going to have to join, or is he going to start looking for WWE superstars who might not be quite as handsome as us, but close? And if it's just going to be like a stable of models, that's weird, but something that's also kind of been done before as well. He is so good that he can probably get something like this over. And I'm not going to go out on a huge rant here about name changes or anything like that, because these name changes are so fucking dumb and frustrating that it just makes me too mad. Now, a lot of people were pointing out, I kind of joked about the name change on Twitter, and I had more than one person saying, well, LA Knight wasn't even a good name, or LA Knight's the name of a fucking hockey team, or, this is actually a better name. I like the name. It's not about which name is better. It's the fact that they're changing it to begin with. And I think this is just such a bad idea when you start getting fans familiar with somebody and then you immediately change everything about them. And I can understand the intellectual property stuff and WWE wanting to, make everything their WWE owned characters, but why didn't they just name him Max Dupree from the beginning? This isn't a situation where he's coming in from the independents and they have to change his name. We see that all the time. We understand it's what they do. He already got a WWE name. They already brought Eli Drake in and gave him a WWE name, LA Knight. Now they take that LA Knight name, that WWE created name, and they change it again. At the end of the day, is it a really big deal? No, but it's so fucking stupid because it just puts the talent at an immediate disadvantage. Pete Dunne, who's been the bruiserweight, who's been just tearing through everybody in NXT UK and NXT. All the fans know him. They love him. We know his style. We know what he does. We know basically who Pete Dunne is. He's the bruiserweight. He's just an ass-kicking little rabid Chris Benoit type of guy. And now they bring him to the main roster. Imagine if they brought Chris Benoit in from WCW with the Radicals, and he came out there in suspenders and a hat, and they just named him, and they named him Butch or Brutus or something like that. It would be ridiculous. No, we already know who he is. Now you're changing him up. So on one hand, you can understand when WWE does this, to maybe an indie name, and they just want to, give him a WWE name. That's fine. But now they're changing WWE names to a different WWE name. And when you get the fans, even though WWE does not consider NXT in the same universe, when fans start seeing talent, getting to know talent on the NXT level or the NXT UK level, and they say that guy or gal is going to be really good on the main roster, and I can't wait until they get there. Piper Niven would be another good example of that, of somebody who's a unique performer who has good matches and could do really well on the main roster, and they bring her in as Dewdrop, and she's a fucking goddamn joke, and she's still had some impressive outings, but she's got this stupid fucking name and gimmick when the fans have already kind of gotten used to her as she was. So I don't care if somebody just debuts and we've never seen them before and WWE wants to give them one of their stupid WWE names. That's fine. But now you're changing it multiple times. You're taking a guy who we clearly know as someone else. He's not even saying he used to be LA Knight. It would be one thing if he said, you know me as LA Knight, but I am now Max Dupree because I want to head up this Maximum Male Models company and I need a better name that better represents the leader of that. Or try to make up some bullshit reason. Like I think they did they released some stupid backstage interview with Casey Catanzaro and whoever else in NXT they've changed the name of. And to hear these women explain why she's now known as Katana Chance, it's like, I'd rather not have them explain it at all, because when you explain it, it sounds even dumber. You would think you might want an explanation, but the explanation is usually dumber than what they're actually doing. So I just don't understand why it is so necessary. WWE obviously trying to protect their properties, trying to protect themselves. So when this talent, a lot of these pieces of talent eventually grow frustrated with the day-to-day incompetence in that shitbag company and they want out, they can't go. They have to go somewhere and create a whole new identity for themselves. They can't go right to AEW and resume their career like some people can who have been blessed and lucky and fortunate enough to be able to keep their names and their personas intact. And I think WWE wants to really limit the amount of people that are able to do that. Like the Tony Storms, like the Jeff Hardys and the AJ Styles and guys like that. There's only a few people now left who could essentially jump from one company to the other and be the same name. Not even Roman Reigns, Roman Reigns can never go to AEW. He'll never be Roman Reigns. Seth Rollins can never be Seth Rollins. So I understand why WWE does it, but it just gets done to such a ludicrous degree. Now, Name changes for the same of name changes. No reason, rhyme or reason really behind them. And WWE, I think, sometimes makes these decisions literally over lunch and then puts them into effect by the end of the day without even really thinking them through. So Max Dupree, he's supremely talented. We all love LA Knight. He's great. He's excellent on the mic. He's a great personality. He would be a great manager. I think he would even be better manager than somebody in the ring because he's near 40 years old. And even though he's in great shape, perfectly capable of having matches, he's got more value and probably can have a lot more mileage on his career if he does a lot of talking. And a managerial role or the leader of a stable is perfect for him. But, you know, what, you're just changing a guy up. It just jumbles everything up and it kills momentum. And I could never imagine being 12 years old and turning on WWF Wrestling Challenge one day and find out that Ricky Steamboat's name is now Robbie Beanbutt. I'm like, okay, you know, why? Is that necessary? But okay. I just couldn't imagine that, you know, watching somebody on TV as a kid, watching them develop, and then I just tune into TV one day and they got a completely different name. That has happened in the past with repackages and whatnot, but this isn't a situation of, you know, just repackaging. Now they just want to completely change you after the audience gets used to you in NXT. And I just don't think that's a really smart way to do it. You know, of all my years watching wrestling, you guys can probably agree. Sometimes you have to change certain things up, but the point, that's what NXT is there to do, to develop your talent. I think your talent should have their names and their personas in place in NXT so you can get the talent used to performing that character or used to being that way and having that style and having that personality, you know, and then you just bring them to the main roster and they tell Raquel Rodriguez, oh, your gimmick is to smile now. That's all you do. Just come out to the ring and smile. By the way, your Titantron or your entrance video is going to be the most generic font that you can ever see with some fun little lasers behind your name. That's it. You know, so what the hell are they even doing in NXT? If they're learning how to cut promos, learning how to develop their characters, learning how to develop their personalities, learning how to work in the ring, then you do all of that, and then you bring them up to the main roster so they can continue it on a bigger stage, and you change everything that they learned. Does that seem ass backwards to you? Just to me, it does. I feel like WWE should try to have, for the most part, it's not going to work all the time and 100% of the time, but for the most part, the person or the persona you are in NXT should be the person coming up to the main roster, unless they find themselves in a situation where they have a supremely talented and capable person portraying the gimmick, but the gimmick itself sucks, and so they change it. Then, okay, fine. But I think for the most part, if you can help it, NXT is your developmental system because of just that. That's where you develop. So develop them there and bring them to the main roster instead of changing 90% of their persona. It just doesn't make any sense, you know? And how come nobody is like telling whoever the fuck makes these decisions, this isn't the way you want to do it, you know? Because the fans know this person, and now you're bringing them there, new name, new identity, new outfit, new fucking ring style, everything. Fucking Butch, man. So that stuff's annoying. Max Dupree has arrived. We also saw Xavier Woods beating Butch for like the umpteenth time. One-on-one match. Woods got the win there. And Butch, Bitch, and Botch, their faction is now called the Brawling Brutes. Ooh, how long did it take you guys to come up with that? Whew. Just the creativity is just shooting out in every direction in this company. I swear, the Brawling Brutes. This product is for 6-year-olds. And we're all watching it for some reason. And in the main event, we have the Raw and Tag Team Championship Unification match. Usos taking on RK Bro. WWE, I think it was like one of their WWE UK Twitter accounts or something, tweeted out a picture of the Usos with all the championships. So they spoiled the outcome of this. We pretty much knew the Usos were the odds-on favorites to win here anyway. I like that Roman Reigns lended a hand in the outcome here. The finish saw, I guess it was Riddle was going to go for like an avalanche RKO onto Jey Uso from the top rope. But when he went for it, Roman came up from behind and held on to his cousin, and Riddle went flying off the top rope on his own, hit the mat, and then Jey was able to hit him with a frog splash to win the tag team championships. And then they went on to destroy RK Bro after the match, beat up Randy Orton, put Riddle through a table. I think Jey did a top rope table bump, and the entire bloodline, Roman, Usos, had all of the gold. It was a great visual. It really, really was. That's what WWE wanted to accomplish. They wanted that visual. They got it. And now they have all the gold, so it remains to be seen how WWE ununifies these things, or if they're going to start thinking about now separating these titles back out. Because this really was your end game here. Your end game for WWE anyway is to put all of the belts in this family. So now that that's done, you got to start thinking about how to untie all of this stuff. So we will see what Roman Reigns does, if he continues to hang on to both belts or if he defends one instead of the other, and Cody Rhodes winning the Money in the Bank and potentially taking one of those belts, or if RK Bro now regroups on Monday and they want to get revenge on the Usos and they want a rematch, or if they decide to go their separate ways, who knows? This might be the end of Orton and Riddle, but I don't think it's the end of Orton and Riddle yet. I do think that they might do something with Riddle getting a title shot against Roman Reigns. They have teased that. He tagged him with a knee a couple of weeks ago on SmackDown, and I think Riddle and Roman would be super fun because Riddle's not going to win, so that would just be a really fun, good match for Riddle to have against, WWE's top guy. Randy Orton too. Who knows? Maybe Randy Orton could get a shot against Roman Reigns. It sounds like right now he's got a pretty fair amount of people chasing after him. You would assume he could be that both members of RK Bro, Randy and Riddle, could both be a threat to Roman. Also, Nakamura might be getting a showdown with Roman in the future, and we have Clash at the Castle coming up at the end of the summer, early September. That'll probably be headlined by Roman Reigns and Drew McIntyre. That's what I would assume. But by then, we could have a whole new WWE champion. By then, Money in the Bank will have come and gone. So we'll have SummerSlam. Who knows what will be going down at Clash of the Castle? It could be Cody and Drew. The two guys who left WWE and came back bigger than ever could actually clash for a championship at Clash of the Castle as well. I guess WWE so far has sold about 30,000 tickets in the pre-sale. A lot of fans have been talking about how expensive this show is, but I believe the prices on that will get better as time goes on. And they are planning to have the biggest crowd and biggest gate in WWE history outside of what they do for WrestleMania. So Clash at the Castle is apparently going to be a pretty big deal, and hopefully that will be a good-looking card. But in the meantime, whatever Roman does, RK Bro does, Usos do, we'll have to wait and see, and we'll have to see how long RK Bro stays together. Maybe they stay together for a little while longer until Riddle gets his title shot and Orton does whatever, and maybe Orton and Riddle get another crack at the tags. If that doesn't pan out, maybe we do the implosion, and maybe we do look at Riddle and Randy Orton at SummerSlam, the match we thought we were going to get last year. We might get that this year at WrestleMania, or I'm sorry, at SummerSlam. So we will see. Let's switch gears now to AEW. Got to talk a little bit about Rampage last night. Pretty good little show, decent. The House of Black defeated 10, Evil Uno, and Fuego del Sol, and I think in a six-man or a trios match. The finish was crazy. The crazy Gonzo bomb onto Evil Uno for the win. Did you guys see that? Holy shit. Brody King came very close to botching that because Evil Uno's a big guy, and just the way they landed was super gnarly. And at the end of that, the Death Triangle came out to the stage to reveal a tombstone with House of Black's logo on it, name on it, and then the Double or Nothing logo, because I think that's the match we're getting there. After that, Shawn Spears was supposed to take on a mystery opponent, a mystery giant. Turned out to be Big Damo, the former Killian Dane in WWE. And Shawn Spears made relative big work of Big Damo. I don't think he's under contract. Is it Big Damo or Big Damo? I think it's Big Damo. He's not under contract. I don't think this was probably a one-shot deal, especially since it was pretty much an enhancement match for Shawn Spears. So we'll see if we see Big Damo again. But now Spears has got to go into Wednesday to face Wardlow in a cage. And if he loses to Wardlow, which he will, Wardlow will officially get his match against MJF at Double or Nothing. But that match is already penciled in for me on the card. We know we're going to see that. I don't like Dan Lambert and Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky and this whole fucking situation, but this segment kind of cracked me up a little bit. Scorpio, Lambert, and Ethan Page are in the ring. They're calling out Sammy Guevara because I guess Sammy Guevara stole the physical TNT title away from Scorpio Sky, even though Scorpio is the champion. So he wants his belt back. Sammy appears on the screen in the parking lot outside, and he's got the title, and he's invited Kazarian in, and he's got a sledgehammer too, and he's invited Kazarian in to help him out with the championship. So Kazarian comes in and takes the title and the sledgehammer, and Sammy starts kissing Ty Conti, and Kazarian goes, God, no wonder nobody likes you guys. And he puts the title down, and he's smashing it with the sledgehammer. You've got Sammy and Ty Conti making out in the background. It cracked me up. A lot of fans just fucking hate this whole angle. I'm not a big fan of it either. But for some reason, I got a big kick out of Kazarian. Like, give me the sledgehammer. God, you guys are awful. And he starts smashing the belt while they're making out. Funny shit. That was funny shit. You know, a lot of fans are getting on the case of Sammy and Ty Conti, but that was one situation that I thought was pretty funny. Got a kick out of it. That's the only Dan Lambert segment I've ever gotten a kick out of in my life. After that, we had Chris Statlander defeating Red Velvet, and she will now advance into the semifinals to face Ruby Soho. So basically our final four for the women's tournament is set. It's Statlander and Soho, and Toni Storm and Britt Baker. So like I said earlier, you could have any combination there. I think Toni and Statlander would be tons of fun, but I also feel like they're going to Bret Hart 1993 this thing with Britt Baker and give her the first inaugural championship, or the first inaugural Owen Hart Cup. I still feel like she's the favorite, but we'll find out probably on Monday if she heads into the finals or not. Main event was also kind of a strange one. This was Bryan Danielson and Jon Moxley taking on Dante Martin and Matt Seidel. Now, the bigger issue here isn't so much the match, it's what happened after. Now, Mox and Danielson, Blackpool Combat Club, got the win. Paradigm shift to Dante Martin for the win. But then after the match, Jericho Appreciation Society comes out and attacks Mox and Daniel Bryan. And Eddie, Santana, and Ortiz come out to help make the save. We got a big brawl going on. And during the brawl, you hear Excalibur say, we're going to keep our tape machines rolling, which immediately tells you they must be shooting an angle later. And, of course, after the show goes off the air, Danielson gets his leg stuck between the ring and the ramp. Now, this, of course, was taped on Wednesday after Dynamite, and a lot of fans believed this was legit, as did I. There started to be a lot of footage showing up and surfacing on Twitter from the audience of saying, hey, something's going on with Danielson. He had his leg stuck in there. It took him, 10 minutes to get him out. And the whole time I'm seeing this footage, I'm watching the cameraman, the AEW cameraman, who's like right there on the whole thing. And I'm like, it's really weird that cameraman is just standing there when there appears to be kind of an emergency going on. You can even see a couple guys trying to lift the ramp away from the ring. And so if that's the case, you wouldn't want somebody standing on it, putting all that weight on it while they're shooting what's going on with Danielson. So I already thought that was odd, but at the same time, maybe cameraman's trying to stay as far out of the way as possible. So it all looked legit on Wednesday because we didn't hear any commentary. We didn't see what AEW was doing. All we could see was the footage that the fans were recording on their phones. And Danielson was eventually let out of there, and he kind of hobbled to the back, and everybody's like, holy shit, thank God he's okay, because that could have been gnarly. I mean, those are big, heavy apparatuses there, the ring and the ramp. I mean, you pinch your shit in there, you could lop off a leg. So Danielson escaping that with his life and his leg was a big relief for a lot of fans. But then when you watch Rampage last night, you see what they were doing, and it was a total work, complete work. Now, I don't understand why. I didn't see if some of the heels actually shoved his leg in there, or if he just slipped in there, and why they're even making it a work, or if they're making this a way for Danielson's leg not to be 100%. Now he goes into the pay-per-view. He's weaker. He's not 100%. He can be taken advantage of, and maybe that is the catalyst to help get Jericho Appreciation Society the victory. Beating and pinning a one-legged Bryan Danielson. I don't know. So I don't know what the point of the whole work was and what the point of that was, but I'm relieved to know that Danielson was not legitimately injured on Wednesday night, and this whole thing was part of the storyline. So that's a big relief. And like I said, Dynamite on Wednesday is loaded up. It looks great. By the way, last week's show did 933,000 for a 0.33 in the share. This week, We've got 2 semifinal Owen Hart Cup matches. We got Britt Baker taking on Toni Storm, and we have Samoa Joe taking on Kyle O'Reilly. And so it'll be Joe and Kyle on one side, and then who else is in there? It's Paige, or I'm sorry, what's his name? Adam Cole. And whoever the fuck he's facing, I forget now. But we're down to the final 4 in both, and we get 2 semifinal matches on Wednesday night. Britt and Tony, Joe, and Kyle O'Reilly. We also get Wardlow taking on Shawn Spears in a cage with MJF. MJF will be the special guest referee if Wardlow is able to win this match. He's already gotten his 10 lashings, and he had to beat Big Cass, and he's done everything he needs to do. All he needs to do is murder Shawn Spears, which I'm sure he will, and the match will be official. And it will be, because MJF and Spears got one over pretty hard on Wardlow that last week, so I think Wardlow will annihilate Spears. Maybe what they should do here is do a deal where he just murders Spears. MJF just retreats. He just scales over the cage, gets the fuck out of there, leaving Spears in the ring with Wardlow all by himself, and Wardlow either just annihilates him on the cage or he powerbombs him 30 times, does something to completely knock Spears out, put him in the hospital so where he's not able to even appear in the match at Double or Nothing to help out MJF, leaving MJF all by himself unless he recruits a little bit of outside help. So I think that'll be what we see on Wednesday, is Wardlow just destroying and murdering Shawn Spears. That will be a lot of fun. We also have the Ring of Honor tag team titles on the line. FTR defending against Roppongi Vice, and I think FTR will probably retain there. We also have Swerve Strickland, Ricky Starks, and Jungle Boy in a 3-way. And, of course, we got a 3-way match for the tag team titles at Double or Nothing, so this is a little appetizer for that. And, of course, we have CM Punk and Adam Page, a face-to-face confrontation. So Dynamite is looking stacked. In terms of Double or Nothing, here's what we got for the card. In the buy-in, we've got Hookhausen, Danhausen and Hook taking on Tony Nese and Mark Sterling. That will be a lot of fun. Like I said earlier, big match between the JAS, Jericho Appreciation Society, and Moxley, Danielson, Santana, Ortiz, and Eddie Kingston. They pitched a Stadium Stampede match last Wednesday, which Moxley immediately shot down, plus a Stadium Stampede. When Jericho challenged them to a Stampede, I'm like, you can't do that. It's not in a stadium. It's in T-Mobile Arena. Every time they've done a Stadium Stampede, hasn't it been in a big outdoor deal or whatever? So this isn't going to work. It's going to have to be an arena stampede. But luckily, Mox put a quick end to that. And according to all of the websites that I see with the card, I don't see any stipulation for this match at all. So something's going to have to be added. Just a big street fight, brawl. I can't imagine this thing just being a straight, 10-man tag with rules and shit. So hopefully it'll just be a bunch of guys beating the hell out of each other, and we'll get some more details on the specifics of that match this week. Also, in a match that some feel came a little bit early, and I thought they would kind of hold off, or could hold off, considering how the short amount of time Jeff Hardy's been in the company, but we actually are getting the Hardy Boys versus the Young Bucks at Double or Nothing. The reason I'm personally not complaining about this match is because I get to see it live. This is very cool for me. I got to see the Hardy Boys wrestle as a tag team in their early days when they were dressing like the Young Bucks, before they even became the Hardy Boys that they know, watching them in dark matches on WWE. Hell, I even think they worked the Battle Royal at WrestleMania 15, excuse me. I have seen these guys ever since they were just schmuck developmental talent, all the way through becoming the Hardy Boys team that we would all know and love. I was also in the building when the Hardy Boys won their first ever tag team titles on Raw in 99, I think, against the Acolytes. I was in the building to watch the TLC match at SummerSlam 2000. I've watched the Hardy Boys lose the tag team titles at Survivor Series one year. I've seen some of the biggest and best Hardy Boy moments live in person. So the fact that all of these years later, I get to watch them against, the current, one of the current best teams in the world, and a team that patterned themselves a lot after the Hardys, just like the Hardys did themselves after the Rockers. It's nice to see. It feels like a full circle moment or something for me as a fan. So to be able to be in the ring, to see this one, they've been in the ring together before, but never on a big pay-per-view like this. And I've got excellent seats for this show, so I'm going to see this one nice, up close and personal. Hardys and Young Bucks, very cool for Greg the fan. Also, Jade Cargill defending the TBS championship against Anna Jay. Anna Jay. Okay, I kind of thought maybe Statlander would lose to Red Velvet and then challenge Jade Cargill. But it turns out to be Anna Jay instead. So I got no issue with that because Jade Cargill should continue rolling. You know what I mean? So I have no interest in seeing her drop the belt yet. So just keep putting challengers in front of her. Anna Jay has won 12 or 13 matches in a row, on Dark and Elevation and whatnot. So she's on a winning streak. For everybody who's like, what did she do to deserve a shot? I'm like, I don't know, man. What did Hogan do to deserve a shot in 84? He came into the company in December of 83. Came into the WWE, helped out Bob Backlund against the Samoans. 1 month later, he's beating the Sheik for the title. He was there 1 month. Chill out. She's getting a title shot. Who cares? And we also have the AEW Tag Team Championships on the line, of course, in a three-way, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, defending against Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs and Swerve Strickland, I should say, and Keith Lee. And based on what we saw last week on Dynamite, we are so close to a Christian turn here on Jungle Boy. It is, we are right at the end of it here. So that could even happen at Double or Nothing if they do drop the belts or if Christian costs him the title. Who knows? AEW Women's title also on the line. Thunder Rosa defending against Serena Deeb. Serena had that real interesting promo on Wednesday night that a lot of people found odd. I was happy she was able to get that type of mic time. I loved when she was telling Dustin that she put breast implants into her body just to appease a bunch of old perverts. I thought that was great because Dustin Rhodes approached those same perverts and actually volunteered to put breast implants in himself. Look up the story. It's a real thing. I thought of all people for Serena Deeb to deliver that line to, Dustin Rhodes was the funniest. So I don't think she's going to beat Thunder Rosa for the title, but you never know. She might. Wardlow, of course, is going to be taking on MJF. That's assuming he beats Spears in the cage on Wednesday, which I fully believe he will, and he'll be taking on MJF. And, of course, we also have the Owen Hart men's and women's final, which could be anybody at this point. I still think Adam Cole and Britt Baker are the front runners, but if they want to throw a swerve at us and make it Chris Statlander or make it Kyle O'Reilly or Tony Storm, something like that, I'd be perfectly fine with that. Again, as a fan, very cool for me to be able to be in the audience for the first ever Owen Hart tournament since Owen and the Harts meant so much to me. I watched Owen Hart die live on pay-per-view. It still traumatizes me 23 years later, nearly to the day. I think we are 2 days away from the 23-year anniversary of Owen Hart's death, which is crazy. So for me to be there, watch this, see Martha Hart is going to be really surreal for a fan like me. So I'm looking forward to that. And of course, in the main event, Hangman Adam Page defending his AEW title against CM Punk. I think that match is a toss-up as well. I completely understand the argument that Page should win this, keep his run rolling, but I can also see CM Punk winning the title and doing a Summer of Punk in 2022. And, I think he can do some really fun things as champion. So it's up to AEW what they find most important, getting their money out of CM Punk, putting the belt on him so he can do great things, or try to establish guys like Hangman Page with a good, long, healthy championship run. That way, when he loses the belt, he's still a main event top-tier player. So I think that one right now is 50-50, but we'll be doing our predictions next week in an official video for that stuff. So that is the end of my notes. Let me cruise over here to the chat and just knock out a couple of final questions before I get out of here. Just reading through some of these. Okay. Oh, I see. That would be a good sequence of opponents for Randy Orton, or for Roman Reigns, if he faced Riddle at Money in the Bank and then Orton at SummerSlam, Drew at the Clash. What's he doing at Hell? Is he going to work anybody at Hell in a Cell? Roman Reigns, he might not even work Hell in a Cell. But yeah, that could work. Or, Nakamura, like they did kind of tease last night. So you could do Nakamura Hell in the Cell. I think Riddle would make more sense for Hell in the Cell, though, since that's all kind of fresh. Roman just cost RK Bro the titles, so you would think one of them would want a shot immediately against Roman Reigns instead of waiting. So I think maybe Hell in the Cell could be first, and then maybe he defends against Orton at Money in the Bank and has a whole new opponent for SummerSlam, like Cody. I'm not sure. But yeah, I think all those guys, based on what they're doing right now on TV, are probably in line for a crack at Roman Reigns. Yeah, it's Team Hangman, Team Punk. I could go either way on that. I think as a fan, I can find reasons to accept both. I still believe when this match was first announced, in my head, my instinct told me buckshot lariat to Punk for the win. Like Adam Page retains because he's got to develop a legacy, and Punk is a perfect guy to use to you can be launched and elevated by beating somebody like that on pay-per-view. And really establish yourself as somebody not to be trifled with. But at the same time, there's a lot of money and fun things you could do with a CM Punk run as well. And with AEW being so young, they don't have a track record yet. They've set no precedents for how they normally do things. So we're all speculating here with WWE conditioned minds, at least most people are. So an AEW doesn't necessarily, they color outside the lines. They go against the grain sometimes, and that's what you want out of a wrestling company. You don't want it to be too predictable. You want them to do things that you weren't expecting. So I think with that match, there's a lot of options and a lot of possibilities for it, and I'm looking forward to it. Man, it's going to be fun next week. 5 years ago today, Jinder Mahal won the WWE title. Thank you for reminding us of that. It's very nice of you. But I think that is going to do it for me today. I got to get out of here now because I got things to do. But thanks again for hanging out with us this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and get that Slamboree 1995 watch-along link ready, so make sure you check my channel later on tonight. The link will be all ready for that to go for tomorrow. And like I said, thumbs up button, subscribe on your way out the door, and I would appreciate it. And you guys have a great rest of your Saturday. I will talk to you tomorrow for the